My friend, if your heart is anxious today, if your thoughts feel tangled, and if your peace is slipping through your fingers, take a breath. You are not alone. Life doesn't always make sense in the moment, but we were never promised that it would. What we were promised is something far better, that God has a plan and He can be trusted with it. When life feels confusing, painful, or uncertain, it's easy to believe that what's happening is random or without meaning, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Nothing in your life catches God by surprise. Every moment, joyful or difficult, is part of a divine design. God's plan is not accidental. It's purposeful, intentional, and always aimed at shaping you into who you were created to be. There are times when we face detours, delays, or disappointments, and our natural response is to assume something has gone wrong. We think, this isn't supposed to happen, or surely I missed God's will. But what if that very interruption is part of the plan? What if the pain you're going through is actually preparing you for the next phase of your purpose? God's ways are higher than ours, and often His path looks nothing like what we expected. Yet it's exactly what we need. Think about a seed. Before it grows into a tree, it has to be buried, hidden, and broken open. That process doesn't look like growth, it looks like loss, but it's necessary. In the same way, God often allows seasons in our lives that feel like endings, when in reality, they're beginnings. We may not understand the season we're in, but we can trust that it's not without purpose. God is using every high and every low, every triumph and every tear to build something far greater than we can imagine. Purpose isn't just found in the victories, it's forged in the valleys. The times when you feel lost or forgotten are often the times God is doing the deepest work within you. He is building character, patience, compassion, and resilience. These aren't just qualities for survival, they are essential tools for your calling. If God's plan were always smooth and easy, we would never grow. But because He loves us deeply, He allows us to walk through the very things that will strengthen our faith and deepen our dependence on Him. Some people spend years asking, why did that happen to me? But the real question that brings peace is, how is God going to use this for good? That shift in mindset can transform your anxiety into trust. God is a redeemer, not just of sin, but of pain, setbacks, and even bad decisions. He takes what the enemy meant for harm and turns it into something that blesses not only you, but others around you. You may not be where you thought you'd be by now, but you are exactly where God wants to meet you. His timing is never off. His plan includes both the mountain and the valley, the celebration and the struggle. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come disguised as breakdowns. What you think is falling apart may actually be falling into place. In the uncertainty that faith is developed. It's in the waiting that patience is refined. It's in the surrender that peace is found. And it's in the trusting that purpose is revealed, even when you can't see the whole picture. Know this, God is still writing your story. Every chapter serves a purpose, even the ones you don't understand yet. You're not a mistake. Your life is not a series of random events. You were created with intention, and God's hand is still on you, guiding every detail, working in every silence, and loving you through every moment. We live in a world that teaches us to grasp for control over our schedule, our future, our relationships, even our image. The more control we think we have, the more secure we feel. But that sense of security is fragile, easily shattered by a diagnosis, a job loss, a broken relationship, or an unexpected change. When life doesn't go as planned, we often scramble to regain control, thinking that if we just try harder, plan better, or hold on tighter, we'll find peace again. But the truth is, control is an illusion. Real peace doesn't come from controlling life's outcomes. It comes from trusting the one who already knows them. Trust and control can't coexist. When we insist on controlling everything, we are essentially saying we don't trust God enough to handle it. But when we release our grip and place our future, our worries, and our plans into His hands, We find something the world can't offer, deep, lasting peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. This kind of peace is not the absence of trouble. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. Think of a child in the backseat of a car. That child doesn't worry about how the car works, where to turn, or whether the tank is full. The child trusts the one driving. That's the kind of posture God invites us into. Not blind naivety, but childlike trust. Trust that says, I may not see what's ahead, but I know who is leading me. The moment we shift from striving to surrender, we start to breathe easier. Not because everything is solved, but because we know we're not carrying it alone. An anxious heart is often a sign of a burdened soul trying to play the role of God. We want guarantees. We want outcomes to match our expectations. And when they don't, we panic. But God doesn't promise us control. He offers us something far greater, His presence. He says, cast all your anxiety on me because I care for you. Not just the big things, all of it. He's not asking you to figure everything out. He's asking you to trust that He already has. The more we try to control, the more anxious we become. Control is exhausting. It robs us of rest and keeps us in a cycle of fear and frustration. But trust, even in the darkest valleys, brings a calm that can't be explained. It's not passive resignation, it's active surrender. It's saying, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that you do. I may not feel strong, but I believe you're holding me up. There's a peace that goes beyond understanding, a kind that doesn't make logical sense to the world. It shows up in hospital rooms, in seasons of waiting and loss and in uncertainty. That peace isn't manufactured, it's given. And it comes when we stop grasping for control and start leaning into trust. Trust isn't easy. It doesn't come naturally, but it grows every time we choose to let go, not out of defeat, but out of faith. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means opening your hands to something greater. It means choosing to believe that God's plan is better than yours, that His ways are higher, and that His timing is perfect. It means quieting the voice that says, what if, and replacing it with the voice that says, even if, I will trust. Peace is not the result of a perfectly controlled life. It's the fruit of a surrendered one. When we finally stop trying to manage every detail and start trusting the one who sees the whole picture, our soul finds rest in a way that control could never provide. Panic is a natural human response when life feels uncertain, when the ground beneath us seems to shift, and when the outcome is far from what we hoped. In moments like these, the heart races, thoughts spin, and fear often takes the lead. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when we face situations beyond our control, a diagnosis we didn't expect, a relationship that suddenly falls apart, or financial pressures that won't ease up. Panic doesn't need an invitation. It slips in quietly and takes hold. But there's something powerful that can stand in the gap between our panic and the peace we desperately crave. That something is prayer. Prayer isn't just a spiritual practice. It's a lifeline. It is where we stop running, stop hiding, and start opening our hearts to the one who understands everything we're facing. When you don't know what to do next, when you feel like you're at the end of yourself, prayer becomes the bridge that carries your anxious soul to a place of safety. Doesn't mean the situation changes instantly, but something inside you does. Peace doesn't always come from changed circumstances. It often comes from a changed perspective, and that perspective is found in the presence of God. In their prayer, we shift our focus from the problem to the problem solver. We acknowledge our limitations and invite God into the moment. It's where our panic is met with His promises. We bring our worries, our doubts, our fears, and our confusion, and we lay them down not because they magically disappear, but because we know we don't carry them alone. There is something deeply comforting in knowing that the Creator of the universe listens when we speak, even if all we can muster are tears and silence. You don't need eloquent words or a perfect attitude to pray. You don't have to have everything figured out. In fact, prayer is often most powerful when it's raw, messy, and honest. God is not waiting for a performance. He's waiting for your heart. The moment you turn toward Him in prayer, you are no longer walking through your struggle alone. Prayer connects your present reality with eternal truth. It reminds you that even though life is unpredictable, God is unshakable. Sometimes peace comes in the middle of the prayer itself, not after it, not once everything's fixed, but right there in the quiet space where you admit that you can't do it all. That admission isn't weakness, it's strength. It's in that moment that you make room for God to step in. It's in that moment that peace starts to rise above panic, not because you've solved anything, but because you've handed it to the one who can. When your mind is spiraling with what ifs, prayer brings you back to what is. That God is still on the throne, that He has not forgotten you, and that He is working even when you can't see it. Prayer grounds you in truth when emotions try to lead you astray. It reminds you of who you are, but more importantly, it reminds you of who He is. He is near to the brokenhearted. He is a refuge in times of trouble. He hears every cry, knows every tear, and responds with grace. Even when you don't feel it, even when your heart is racing and your hands are shaking, prayer can still be the anchor that holds you steady. It is the place where you release the burden and receive His calm. It is the daily act of saying, I can't, but you can. Every time you turn to God in prayer, you are choosing peace over panic, faith over fear, and surrender over striving. Prayer doesn't just change your situation, it changes you. It becomes the bridge that carries you from chaos to calm, from fear to faith, from anxiety to assurance. See, life has a way of overwhelming us when we try to figure everything out at once. We look at the road ahead and see 100 unknowns, questions we can't answer, outcomes we can't predict, and problems we can't solve. The weight of uncertainty begins to settle in, and suddenly we feel stuck. It's not that we lack motivation. It's that we're paralyzed by the idea that we need a full blueprint before we can move forward. But faith doesn't operate that way. You don't need all the answers. You just need to take the next step. God rarely shows the entire path in one vision. He leads step by step, moment by moment. That can feel frustrating in a world that rewards 5-year plans, guarantees, and risk management. But God's ways are higher than ours, and often His guidance comes in whispers, not roadmaps. When He asks us to trust Him, He's not demanding blind leaps into the unknown. He's inviting us to walk with Him, one step at a time. It's not about knowing the full plan. It's about knowing the one who holds the plan. There's a kind of freedom in not having to solve everything today. You don't have to have every detail worked out. You don't need to see the ending before you begin. All you need is enough faith to take the next small step, to make that phone call, apply for that opportunity, ask for help, forgive someone, or simply keep showing up. Progress often starts in obedience, not certainty. And when you trust God with your next step, He'll take care of the rest. And the truth is, having all the answers doesn't guarantee peace. Sometimes the more we try to figure out the future, the more anxious we become. But taking one step in faith can ground us in the present where God is already at work. He doesn't expect you to climb the whole mountain in a day. He asks you to take one faithful step upward, even when the peak is hidden in the clouds. Faith isn't about having it all together. It's about showing up anyway, knowing that He will meet you there. Think about how God led His people in Scripture. Whether it was Abraham leaving his homeland, Moses leading the Israelites, or Peter stepping out of the boat, none of them knew exactly how the story would unfold, but they moved forward with what they had, a word from God, and the courage to obey. That was enough. The sea didn't part until Moses stretched out his staff. Peter didn't walk on water until he stepped onto it. The breakthrough didn't come until the step was taken. Often we want assurance before obedience, but God calls us to obedience before assurance. That's where trust is built. When you take the next step, even if it's small and uncertain, you are saying, God, I believe you're already in my tomorrow. And that declaration silences fear more than any perfect plan ever could. Waiting for every question to be answered before you move keeps you stuck. Life doesn't wait, and neither should your faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Trust that if God brought you this far, He's not about to abandon you now. He will make the next step clear at the right time. And when He does, your job isn't to question it, it's to take it. Because often the clarity we seek comes after the step, not before it. Even when you feel unsure, even when doubt whispers louder than faith, know this: God doesn't require perfection. He honors motion. And when you move, He moves with you. You may not know how everything will turn out, but you can rest in the truth that God already does. All He asks of you today is to trust Him enough to take the next step. Grace, detours, and disappointments are often the parts of life we try to avoid or rush through. They feel inconvenient, frustrating, and at times even painful. When doors close, plans fall apart, or answers don't come as quickly as we hope, it's easy to question if God is even paying attention. We live in a culture that celebrates speed, progress, and results. So when life slows down or shifts unexpectedly, it can feel like we're falling behind. But God doesn't operate on our timeline or according to our expectations. He works through the very things we try to escape, the delays that test our patience, the detours that change our direction, and the disappointments that deepen our dependence on Him. Delays are not denials. Just because something is taking longer than you expected doesn't mean it's not happening. God often uses waiting seasons to prepare us for what's ahead. In the delay, character is developed, trust is stretched, and priorities are refined. It's in the waiting that we learn how to lean on God more than our plans. We want immediate answers, but God is more interested in long-term growth. Sometimes He withholds what we're asking for, not because He's cruel, but because He's kind. He sees what we can't. And when the timing is finally right, we often realize why the wait was necessary. What we once saw as a setback was actually God setting things up behind the scenes. Detours can feel confusing. Life takes a turn you didn't see coming. A career path shifts, a relationship ends, or your health suddenly demands your full attention. It's easy to ask, why now? Why this? But detours are often divine redirections. When your path changes, it doesn't mean you've lost your purpose. It means God is leading you another way. What feels like a mistake to you might be God's mercy protecting you from something you didn't know was coming. Sometimes He allows a plan to fall apart so He can build something better. Detours don't mean God has changed His mind about your future. They mean He's guiding you to it in a different way. The journey may not look how you imagined, but it will still lead to the destination He designed. Disappointments cut deep because they touch our hope. We set our hearts on something, we pray, we believe, and then things don't go the way we anticipated. Disappointment can feel like failure, a door slammed shut, a dream lost, a prayer unanswered. But even in those moments, God is working. Disappointments strip away false security and push us to seek Him more sincerely. They remind us that loneliness is one of the most silent struggles a person can face. It can strike in a room full of people, in the quiet of the night, or even during seasons of apparent success. Feeling alone can lead us to believe that no one truly understands, that no one sees the inner battles we fight. It's easy to think that if others knew what we were really feeling, they might turn away or not know how to respond. In those hidden moments, it can feel like we're completely on our own. But the truth that anchors us in such seasons is this: we are never truly alone because God is always near. God's nearness isn't based on our emotions, it's based on His promise. Even when we don't feel His presence, He's still there. He doesn't leave when the crowd disappears. He doesn't walk away when the storm rolls in. In fact, some of the most powerful experiences of His presence happen in our loneliest, most vulnerable moments. When no one else sees the tears, He does. When no one else hears the silent cries for help, He listens. He draws near to the brokenhearted, and He promises to never leave nor forsake us. Sometimes we equate God's presence with visible signs or emotional highs, but often His nearness is quiet and steady, like a hand on your shoulder when you feel like falling apart. It's in the whisper of peace, in the middle of chaos, the sudden calm that doesn't make sense, or the unexpected strength to face another day. His presence is not always dramatic, but it is always faithful. He walks with us through the darkness, not just on the sunny days. He sits with us in the silence and fills the empty places with His love. Many people walk through seasons where human relationships fall short. People leave, disappoint, or simply don't understand. In those moments, the lie that we are alone can grow louder. But God's presence doesn't depend on others staying. His love is not conditional, and His commitment doesn't fade. Even when you feel overlooked by the world, you are fully known and deeply loved by Him. His eyes are never turned away. His heart never grows tired, and His grace never runs dry. The beauty of God's nearness is that it's not reserved for perfect moments or perfect people. He doesn't wait for us to get everything right before He shows up. He's near when we're confused, when we've made mistakes, when we're questioning everything. He's near when we're strong, and He's near when we're breaking. His presence is not a reward, it's a promise, a reflection of who He is, not what we've done. When you whisper prayers that don't seem to have answers, He hears. When you feel like no one notices your pain, He sees. When you are too tired to keep going, He carries you. God's nearness means you don't have to pretend to be okay. You don't have to hide your tears, suppress your doubts, or fake strength. You can be real, raw, and honest, and still be met with His mercy. There is no place too dark, too distant, or too desolate for His love to reach you. His nearness brings a kind of peace that no human affirmation can replicate. It brings comfort that surpasses understanding, healing that reaches beyond words, and a strength that's renewed daily. You are never truly abandoned. You are never invisible. Even when the world grows quiet and the path feels uncertain, God is present. Not watching from afar, but walking right beside you, guiding, sustaining, and surrounding you with a love that never lets go. So, today, breathe deep, pray bold, and remember, you can see the whole path, but you can also just quickly say, okay, the devil does it. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go in. So, Andrew, now, look at me. Did you miss it? His plan's good. His presence is near. And His peace, it's already on the way.